Welcome to Sound on a Budget. My name's Pablo Verretta, aka StoneFab Joe, here at River Jam Studios in Lake Havasu. This is the show where I show you how to build a home studio on a budget, starting from zero. And who knows, you might already have a few pieces that are just laying around in your house that you've been messing with just as a hobby or just doing it for yourself. But today I'm going to show you how to put all those pieces together and show you some stuff you can get over time. But for now, let's get started. I'll show you everything I know. So you're ready to start a studio, whether it's for podcasting, mixing music, making your own music, or recording other artists. You're probably sitting there thinking, oh man, I need a few $100s to get this and to get that and to get this mic.
1, 2.
I'm here to tell you that you don't. Myself, I started with the 2019 MacBook Pro that I got out of the pawn shop for about $400. And believe it or not, I'm still using it to this very day. And on top of that, I got myself a copy of Logic Pro from a buddy of mine, a cheap pair of headphones, a cheap ass mic, and a tiny little interface from Temu. Believe it or not, I got it for $35. Cheapest audio equipment I've ever purchased. Well, that's what this episode's all about, how to get everything you need and then some. So stay tuned and let's dive into this episode. All right, guys, here's a quick checklist of the things you're going to need to get started, all right? First things first, you're going to need a quiet workspace. A spare bedroom in your house, your attic, your basement, or even a large walk-in closet will do just fine. Now, the next thing you're going to need is a desk. Don't get too fancy with it. Just a simple computer desk that you can pick up anywhere for about $20 to $50. It'll do. After that, look into your computer. If you already got one, great. But try and get something that's within the last 3 to 5 years. You're going to want the power, and trust me, it's going to take a lot of juice for a lot of the recordings you're going to do. Also, don't forget to get yourself at least a little bit of storage. Get yourself a 1 terabyte SSD of external. Trust me, with all these projects you're going to be doing and all the plugins you're going to be getting, you're going to need somewhere to put them. Next, get yourself a decent audio interface. Now, this unit is going to be the heart and soul of your studio. Don't go too big. Just start something simple. I started off with a Behringer 202 HD. They run for about $60. Great way to get started on those. Now, as far as mixing the audio, I would go ahead and look into getting a pair of headphones. Start off with the headphones first, because if your room isn't treated, you're not going to get the right mix and you're going to constantly be going back and forth, but I'll go into that later on. Next is get yourself a set of monitors. So once you treat your room, those monitors will really come in handy because ear fatigue is a bitch. Next, you're going to want to get a good microphone. Look at some Audio Technicas, maybe Behringers or PreSonus. They got some pretty good budget-friendly options that are great for vocals, great for podcasting, and they get the job done. That's all you need to know. And last but not least, get yourself a decent MIDI controller. They run for $50 to $100, and you can take your pick. I would get something that has a little drum pad to it, 25 keys, and some buttons and knobs just to get you started off the bat. But don't worry about getting this all at once, so don't stress about it. I would just get it a piece at a time until you get what you need. So for now, just get started with what you got and take it from there. First things first, you'll need a room that's not too echoey, doesn't reflect too much sound, something with the carpet already in it. If you don't have carpet in that room, get yourself a large area rug. Trust me, it'll cut down on the reflections in that room. I myself am using my spare bedroom in my apartment. Luckily it's already got carpet in it, so I don't have to worry about treating the floors. Now, as far as the walls, as you can see, I've used a lot of those cheap foam panels that you can get off of Temu, Amazon, and any other store that sells them. They're pretty cheap. They're inexpensive. I did this whole room with the foam panels to begin with for about $50, $60. So it's a really great way to get started. I know a lot of pros out there are going to chew my head off over this, but hey, if you're on a budget and you're broke, it works, okay? I don't care what the pros say. Just pile it on and see for yourself. Now, for those of you that are pretty handy, there's plenty of blueprints and ways that you can build your own panels from stuff that you can get at Home Depot, the Goodwill, stuff like that. Like the one behind me here. I literally built that out of 1x2s and used towels from Goodwill. I mean, hell, the pattern back here is a shower curtain, believe it or not. And it helped me tremendously to cut down those reverberations in the room. Also, with the bass traps for the low end, you're definitely going to want to build some bass traps off the bat because trust me, there's nothing worse than doing your mix and thinking you've got enough bass, and then you go to bounce it out, take it to your living room, your car speakers, whatever, and all of a sudden you're either getting way too much bass in low end or you're not getting enough. So make sure to invest in some bass traps. And like I said, there's some DIY options. I myself got tube traps in the corners that I built from concrete forms and mineral wool. And I got the material at Hobby Lobby to wrap it all in. And I mean, honestly, it took me a day to make two of them. So if I can do it, I know you guys can definitely do it. And if you're on a budget, trust me, it is the best way to treat your room acoustically. But like I said, there are other better options out there that you can buy and purchase. But for now, for those of you that are broke, like I was, either DIY it or go to Temu. Trust me, those foam panels work. Alright guys, next up, your desk. That's going to be an important aspect to your studio. Now don't go too fancy with it, okay? Just get yourself a simple, sturdy desk, something that can hold your computer, your monitors on, and your audio interface. You're not going to want to invest in a huge professional studio desk off the bat. You don't need to, honestly. Get yourself a decent desk. I mean, you can find them on Facebook Marketplace. People are giving them away. Sometimes they'll sell them for 20, 30 bucks. For those of you that are pretty handy, I mean, you can go as far as modifying those desks that you find for free out there into your own studio desk. But like I said, just something sturdy, something to get you started with. Now, for all you DIYers out there that love to build your own things and like to save the money, I recommend building your own workstation. I built mine, the desk that you see behind me. I built that for about $300. I got the materials, hardware, and everything for about $300 to $400. Took me about a month to do, but trust me, it was a sound investment for a long, long time. Now, I'll have a link to the series of how I built my desk on TikTok. Check it out at River Jam Studios on TikTok. I'll have the whole series there. I'll also have several links below to different tutorials that I followed and different blueprints that are available out there for people that want to build your own desk. But like I said, don't get anything too fancy. Don't go blowing hundreds of dollars on it, all right? Get yourself something simple to get started on. All right, guys, I had to sit down for this one. This one's a bit of a lengthy explanation here because we're diving deep into the heart and soul of your home studio here. So, as you all know, you're going to need a computer. Now, for those of you that already have MacBooks out there, anything from 2019 and newer, you're pretty much ready to go. Those laptops can handle pretty much anything. Now, if you have a gaming PC, you're also good to go. Those gaming PCs have a high-end processor on them and plenty of RAM to do all the logical work that these DAWs demand out of it. Now, for those of you that don't have one or have an old PC or laptop or are looking to upgrade, here's the specs I recommend. I recommend something with an i5 10th gen or newer, preferably an i7. If you're an AMD person, get a Ryzen 5 with at least 6 cores or a Ryzen 7. And as far as RAM, get something with 16 gigs of RAM or more. The more RAM you have, the better. Believe me, it's going to make your workflows a lot faster with DAWs. You won't glitch out as much. It'll handle heavier workloads and all those plugins like the SSL plugins from Slate Digital. Now, with that being said, you're going to need plenty of storage space, preferably 1 to 2 terabytes. You can use hard disk for file storage, and project storage, But for files that you're going to be using consistently, like for plugins and your DAW, get solid state storage, like an NVMe M.2 drive in your PC or an external SSD. That's just going to make your workflow a little faster, and it's going to give you plenty of storage to put all those files, because believe me, they get pretty big after a while. Now, with that being said, I myself have been using a 2019 MacBook Pro. It's got an Intel i7, so it's got at least 6 cores on it, 16 gigs of RAM, and it's been working phenomenally for me. I've had that MacBook Pro for about 3.5, 4 years now. I got it at the pawn shop for about $300-400. And as far as getting those computers, that's one place I definitely recommend starting off. Is go to your local pawn shops if you have them in your city and scour them. A lot of people will trade in good gaming PCs or just good PCs in general that have a really high-end processor and a lot of RAM. Now, as far as Macs go, same thing. You can usually find a used Mac Mini at a pawn shop for about, I don't know, $200-300, maybe a little less. Anything from 2020 up until now, I definitely recommend a Mac with an M processor in it. If you have an Intel-based Mac, get something that's from 2019 or newer with at least an Intel i7, because the i5s tend to bog down a little bit. But that's on the Apple side. For the PC side, you can also go to the pawn shops and look for those. Another good place to look for them is Facebook Marketplace. I've been scrolling through Facebook Marketplace because I'm looking for a new PC myself, and I'm just looking for something that I can either gut and rebuild or just use as is. And usually, used gaming PCs go for anywhere from $300 to $400-500. So you can find something in there. It doesn't have to have a beefy graphics card, because you're not going to be using it for video editing if you're just specifically focusing on audio work. So you can skip out on the graphics card, but just focus on getting something with a strong CPU and a strong amount of RAM and storage. Now, which brings me to my next piece of information for you guys, is the software, specifically the DAWs. So there's plenty of DAWs out there, digital audio workstation softwares. The 3 I'm going to start off with are the free ones. There's GarageBand, which all Apple users know how to use. It's a basic, great way to get started if you don't have the money for Logic or Pro Tools or stuff like that. Then there's Reaper. Reaper gives you a lot more capabilities than GarageBand. Runs for both Mac and PC, so that's definitely something to look into. And the last but not least, it's been around for more than a decade, is Audacity. A lot of people I know starting off with, they start off with Audacity just because it gives them everything they need and then some. Now, as far as paid software, there's several. I'm going to list off 5 or 6 options here, and I'll tell you which one it is that I currently use and has been my favorite for the last year or so. So for all you Mac users, you all know this, Pro Tools, or not Pro Tools, I'm sorry, Logic Pro. So Logic Pro is an easy transition from GarageBand if you guys are using that. Unfortunately, it's only for Mac, but it gives you everything you need. It's an industry staple. A lot of professional studios that I've worked in and have produced in use Logic Pro, mainly because they've got Macs. They use the Mac Studio or the Mac Minis, or even people just using their MacBooks like I do. So Logic is a great piece of software. It costs about $200 if you're a Mac user. I would recommend getting it if that's the way you're going to transition to. And if it is, great. It gives you everything you need and then some. The next piece of software I'm going to talk about is Ableton and Cubase. Now, those are 2 great DAWs. I'm not entirely sure as to where they sit in the industry. I know a lot of professional studios do use Ableton and Cubase. And they're great pieces of software to get started with. I believe they offer subscriptions, but I'm not entirely sure. I'll have all the links to that down below. Now, we get to the battle of Fruity Loops versus Pro Tools. So Fruity Loops, I'm not entirely sure of what the cost is. I know it's not cheap, but if you want to be that producer from 2012 that says Fruity Loops is everything, then get Fruity Loops. I'm not going to stop you. Is it a budget-friendly option? I'm not entirely sure. I think last I checked, it was like $300 or $400 for a perpetual license. I could be wrong. You guys can fact check me on that. List it in the comments. Let me know. Now comes Pro Tools. Pro Tools has become the industry standard in Hollywood and music production. Any major studio you go to will have Pro Tools by default. Uh, it is used to score audio for film, for music videos, recording artists, anything and everything that you see on TV. More than likely, they use Pro Tools to edit the audio in. Now, they're expensive when it comes to a perpetual license, so I wouldn't go that route. But if you really want to go the higher end of DAWs, then go with Pro Tools. They do offer subscriptions. They got 3 tiers. I believe the cheapest tier is about $25 a month. The next one up is either 40 or 45, and then the all-inclusive suite is 100 a month. Now, me personally, I do like Pro Tools. Unfortunately, I cannot afford Pro Tools. I wish I could. I really do wish I could. But it's just not in my budget yet. Hopefully, maybe sometime in the near future, when I make enough from my home studio, I can afford a perpetual license. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and explain the one that I do use and has been my personal standard in River Jam Studios. And that is a company that I never would have thought of. PreSonus, specifically Studio One Pro 7. They have the best DAW I have ever used in the 15 years that I've been doing this. It's a simple transition from Logic, which is what I came from, and it's very similar to Logic. So for all you Logic Pro users out there that are looking for something else, Studio One's the way to go. They offer all the plugins you'll need. Stock plugins are great. The sample libraries they offer with their subscriptions are awesome. And it comes with the Splice AI tool. Now, I'll explain that in a later video. I believe I have a link of it to my TikTok. Check it out. I'll post it right here. If not, check out the description down below. And that software for about $20 a month gives you everything you need to do from start to finish. I mean, from basic recording to mixing to mastering to editing audio for video or film to specific podcasting templates. I mean, the templates they offer alone, just to start off with, are amazing. And the mastering template and workstation they give you is phenomenal. Can't go wrong with PreSonus. And no, I just want to throw this out there. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just they blew me out of the water with their software. I never would have thought twice to look at PreSonus. But for those of you that are on a budget and don't want to go with the free DAWs and want something with a little bit more beef behind it and, bang for the buck, PreSonus is where it's at. Studio One Pro 7. I'll have the link in the description down below. Check it out, guys. I believe they offer a trial, so for those of you that are broke and on a budget, check it out. You will not be disappointed, I promise. So, when it comes to these DAWs, don't overthink it. Pick one and start off with it. If you don't like it, move on to another one. Until you land on the one that you feel is right for you. Like I said, I've tried almost all of them, and I landed on PreSonus. That is now my standard at River Jam Studios. And yes, I still use Logic from time to time, especially when mastering, because they give me a little bit better option. But I do 90% of my mastering in Studio One. So it is a standard for River Jam Studios here in Lake Havasu. I recommend checking it out. Don't overthink it, guys. Just try them all out or pick one to start off with and go from there. All right? All right. Next and foremost is your audio interface. Now, a lot of people tend to lean towards the Focusrites or the expensive Apollo interfaces. Don't get me wrong, they're great interfaces, but if you're on a budget, not so much. you might want to stick around with a Behringer UMC 202 HD. Still gives you great quality audio for the price of about 60 to 80 bucks, depending on where you find it. Other than that, me personally, I use a Behringer UMC 404 HD, which is the next step up from the 202. It's a great interface, gives you 4 channels of audio in and audio out, runs for about 150 to 160 bucks brand new, but sometimes you can get them on sale for about 100 to 120 dollars. Now, another interface that I use in conjunction with my Behringer is the Volt 2 by UAD. They're not bad interfaces at all. If you can fork up the extra couple $100 for one, I definitely recommend getting it. It gives you great sound quality out of it. You get that amazing warmth from the vintage setting that it's got built into it. But they run for about $200 to $250, depending on which one you're getting. If it's the Volt 2, it's about $200. If you're getting the Volt 4, it's about $270. So pick wisely. You can also do one little trick that I use here at River Jam Studio, and that's combining multiple audio interfaces. Now, for you Mac users, I'm sure you're aware of this, about how to create an aggregate device. Now, an aggregate device basically just means you've taken multiple devices to make it into one. So the computer you can have 3, 4, 5 audio interfaces hooked together, and then tell the computer, no, this is one unit for audio interface. And it'll take all those ins and outs of your interface and let you use them in your DAW. So if you're using a lot of hybrid mixing setups, like I do here at River Jam Studios, it's a great cheap option to get multiple audio channels in and out of your DAW. That aggregate device feature is found under the MIDI settings in your Mac. I'll show you guys how to do that in a later video. It's a great way to save money, and it's a great way to use those old interfaces you got lying around. Let's talk listening gear. Now, when it comes to listening to the audio you're recording, it's very important you get yourself a good pair of mixing headphones. Me personally, I use the Audio-Technica's ATH M50Xs. Now, those are a little bit on the higher range, about 150 to 180 bucks brand new, depending on where you get it. But sometimes you can score them for about 100 bucks. I got really lucky and found mine on Facebook Marketplace for 50 bucks. And the guy was just moving, wanted to get rid of them, so I picked them up. Greatest deal I've ever found so far. Now, when it comes to headphones and you can't fork up to 160, 180 bucks for one, you can go with the step down of the Audio-Technicas. Instead of the ATH M50Xs, you can go with the M30Xs. They're still just as great. The response is just as amazing. And they're a little bit more budget friendly at about 80 bucks. But the next step you want to take after you get those headphones is make sure you also pick up a set of studio monitors. Now, the studio monitors is the next step you're going to take in your home studio build. And the reason I say next step is because if you have a room that's not treated acoustically, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to be running back and forth when you bounce your mixes and trying to get that sweet spot on the low end or the high ends. Especially if you're using an effect like reverb. If you're using a reverb plate or a reverb room on, plug-in on your mix and you bounce it out and your room's already reflecting a lot, you're going to get 10 times that amount when you go and listen to it in your car or your Bluetooth speakers or your headphones or like your AirPods or something. So treating your room before getting monitors is key. So make sure you get those acoustic panels. Like I said, there's DIY options. I'll have links down below for that. Now, when it comes to studio monitors, there's a few sets of studio monitors that I've used over the years. And the ones I've landed on and are a great bang for the buck are the JBL MK2 Series 3 monitors. I used those. I started using them about 5 years ago in one of the first home studios I had. I had to sell them for personal reasons, and I missed them. I'm not going to lie. I missed the hell out of them. The quality of the low end and the highs was perfect. So I bought them again, and this time with the 10-inch subwoofer. But as far as price range goes for those JBLs, they're selling for about $130, I believe, to $150 online. You can pick up a pair of them for about $275. If you get really lucky, you can pick up two of them for about $200. That's my favorite set of monitors that I like to use for my home studio, and they've always been a great choice. Another choice are the Rocket or the KRK Rocket Gen 5s. They're also within that same price range, I believe. I think they're about $20 more. They run for about $350 for the set or $300 used. But another great pair of monitors. I've seen a lot of those in both professional and home studio settings, and they work amazingly well. Even the Gen 4 of the KRKs work amazingly well. My very first set of monitors was a Gen 4 series, and I upgraded to the JBL MK2s, and I've stuck with those ever since. Now, here's a little tip that most people don't realize, and I don't think PreSonus advertises this enough. So here's some free advertising for PreSonus. And again, I am not sponsored by them whatsoever. Check out their bundles. They got it for about $300. Gives you the monitors, the interface, the microphone, and the software, all for about $300. Some of them, I think, have the monitors and the headphones together, and the mic and interface with software. But double check that in the link below. Other than that, just invest in a good set of headphones and a good set of monitors, but don't blow your budget. All right, you want to keep your headphone and monitors budget around $200 to $300 if you can. So with that being said, guys, just be very mind conscious about what you pick. Now for another fun part of this video, microphones. Now you want to get yourself a good condenser microphone, just to record a good set of vocals on an audio track or a song you're mixing. You're going to want to get a mic that's pretty good in capturing those highs as well as those mids. The low ends you can always taper off later on, but if you get yourself a microphone that can just capture all that in one, that's great. Now, when I started off years ago, I had an MXL 1006, which is this puppy right here, and I still have it to this day. I cannot get rid of it for the life of me. This microphone has been with me for, I want to say, 10 years now, and it's still one of my go-to mics, believe it or not. I've used it in some of my previous work before with several artists and independent artists, and their vocals just come out great. It's a very great flat mic, not too much on the low ends, not too much on the high ends, that perfect mid-range. These MXL 1006s go for about $40 to $50 now, but back in the heyday, they were going for about $100, $150. So, I mean, it's a decent mic for the price if you can find one used. You can't find them new anymore. They discontinued them, but if you can find one, I definitely recommend it. Now, the mic that I use nowadays is Audio-Technica's mic. Now, I know I've referred to their headphones, and they're great headphones. Now, the reason I went to an Audio-Technica mic, I went to the Audio-Technica AT2035. It's about $180. It's a pretty good lower mid-range mic, captures vocals amazingly well. And when you're pairing them with the Audio-Technica headphones, there's just something about it that just sounds right. And it translates into your mixes very, very well. So it's a mic I definitely would recommend getting. Now, there are other options by Behringer, PreSonus, and there's those expensive Neumann mics that are hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars out there. But don't blow your budget on that. You can get really cheap mics that are just as good as the high-end mics. For example, another mic that I use is the Stag pencil mics. They run for about $30 to $35 on Amazon. And compared to the Shure versions of those mics, they sound amazing. As a matter of fact, this video that you're hearing or watching right now, that's what I'm recording the audio with, is a Stag pencil mic. And quite honestly, I can't complain about the audio quality. So look into the mics. I'll have a whole list down below in that PDF. Make sure to check them out because you're going to want to get a good, decent mic for either podcasting or just recording vocals for music. Now, if you're just looking to do podcasting, there are some really, really cheap options out there. I mean, you can use a cheap dynamic mic for your podcasting, but if you want to look professional, I recommend getting the CAD GXL 1800. Now, I've seen them sell for as low as $20, but they can go up to $50. It's a really good, cheap, inexpensive mic, crystal clear audio. They run a little hotter than the higher end mics, but they still get the job done. As a matter of fact, I have one right here mounted to my desk just in case for video calls or conferences or anything, or even just as my talk through mic when I'm recording people here in the studio. It's a great, cheap option. So just take a look out there and see what you can find. Again, Facebook Marketplace, your pawn shops, Amazon, Reverb, check them all out. Now, one thing I forgot to mention before with the microphones is you're going to want to get a few accessories with those. You're going to want to get yourself a pop filter to help with those strong P sounds and S sounds as you're singing into your mic. You're also going to want to get a mic shield like I have here with my Audio-Technica AT2035. The mic shield will actually help cut down on the reverberations if you're in an untreated room. And believe me, it's a lifesaver and a must if you can't afford to acoustically treat your room off the bat. So look into getting that, and also look into getting into a good mic stand, because that's going to help you put your whole microphone setup like you see here. Other than that, if you don't want to spend the money and you're doing it for yourself just at home, and you don't want to fork up the 10, 15, $20 for a pop filter, you can go as cheap as getting a wire coat hanger, an old piece of pantyhose, and just wrap that thing around your mic stand and use that as a pop filter. Or if you don't want to spend the money on a mic shield, get a crate, put your mic in it, stuff it with these cheap foam panels that you see behind me, and that'll work as well. Just anything to cut the reverberation going into the mic from the back of the mic. Okay, guys, last part of the show. So we talked about microphones, we talked about monitors, we talked about interfaces and everything else in between. Now, the last little thing you're going to need, and this is going to give you a lot of control over your DAW, is just a simple MIDI controller. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or anything ridiculously expensive, or anything automated like that with motorized knobs and this and that. No, pick one up for about $50 to $100. There's several brands out there that are very cheap and inexpensive, but still industry standard. One that I can name off the bat is Akai. Another one is M Audio, which is the best beginner brand for MIDI interfaces. And there's also Alesis. I personally use the Alesis VI25. It's a 25 key, keyboard, and it's got the little drum pad on the side so you can create little chops and beats and stuff like that. But it also gives me some more functionality as far as buttons and knobs and faders and stuff like that go. That runs for about $100. I would check one out. There's also the M Audio Oxygen 25, and there's the Akai Mini MPK. All great options to help you control your DAW a little bit better, helps you create better chord progressions, create beats, chops and screws, and gives you control over automations in your plugins and so on and so forth. So just pick one up for about $50 to $100. They're relatively inexpensive nowadays. Just check them out. And again, they'll be listed in that PDF I mentioned down below, all right?
So I'll be spitting live in the booth. I'll be getting high with my youth. And we just hitting miles in the coupe. We just in a vibe with the crew.
All right, guys, so let's recap real quick. 7 things you're going to need is a quiet workspace, a desk, computer, storage, your audio interface, headphones and monitors, and a good mic, along with a MIDI controller. Okay, I'll admit, that's about 8 things. Maybe 9, I don't know. It depends if you separate the headphones and monitors. Either way, with those things, you can get those over time. They're inexpensive nowadays, especially if you look on places like Reverb or Sweetwater. Guitar Center will sell used equipment as well. But your best shot is Facebook Marketplace, your local pawn shops, and your local music stores. Now, Reverb is a great website where you can go and buy all sorts of used equipment. Now, given shipping might be a little ridiculous on some of the items, but if you can justify it, it's worth it. So take a look at all those retailers, guys, because they will have all that equipment and then some. And remember, always keep looking. You're always going to find cheap audio equipment. And if you're in the big cities like LA, Dallas, Vegas, New York City, any big city, you'll be able to find cheap audio equipment at a really, really good reduced price. So keep your eyes peeled out there for that equipment and just keep checking on everything you can out there. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Sound on a Budget. Till then, hit that like button, subscribe, drop me a comment. Let me know about your setups, man. I'm always curious. Let me know what you guys got, what you guys find. Maybe I'll even feature your setup on an episode of this show. Let me know. Till then, check out the links down below with the equipment list, the links to my desk build, and everything else in between. Till then, stay tuned for the next episode on audio interfaces. We'll dive deep into how you can get them for pretty cheap, what you can do with them, and everything else in between. Till then, you guys just keep creating out there. Peace.